there.
Ridiculous instincts and reactions.
Now Burrow going to launch downfield. Got it! Here's the left-hander. Tua Tagovailoa comes out throwing. Throws on the run. Got it. Touchdown. Well, that was creative. Herbert, and he's taking a shot. Touchdown, Oregon. Herbert runs away from it. It dives into the end zone. CeeDee Lamb. There's the explosive run. CD, another TD. Lamb goes up and gets it. And Jerry Jeudy is in the end zone. Jerry Jeudy, and he's got it. Jerry Jeudy, what an effort. Isaiah Simmons, best defensive player. Mr. Do Everything. Unbelievable.
Welcome back, everybody, to another season of CDL Dynasty Football. Your favorite host, Haley, back at it again. Very eerily similar podcast we got going, but with a different name. This year, we're going with the Right Hand Man Podcast. So, first of all, I'd like to say, hope everyone and their families are staying healthy and safe during this time. Hopefully you guys can all get a couple laughs out of this. That's what we're doing this for. Pushing on through that mushy stuff. I'm super excited for the football season because there has been nothing going on. Also, very hopeful for it. Hopefully the NFL figures out whatever it is they need to figure out during this COVID crap, and they can at least have a full season of games. The off season's obviously been weird. Training camps, even so much as workouts, or nobody being able to see if Cam Newton's healthy. Patriots are definitely happy with that signing, by the way. But the draft went off without a hitch, which I was very surprised with. I thought there was going to be something going wrong. It may be that the Giants didn't take a wide receiver, but we'll have to find that out later. We actually have a first for one of my podcasts. Today, we are going to do, and yes, I said we are going to do a 2020 CDL mock rookie draft. So we're going to go through 2 rounds. We're going to get in depth with the first round, and then kind of get through the second round, and then we'll have a couple questions at the end, a little bold prediction. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce the Miller Lite Right Hand Man of the Week, Greg Daly. Mr. Daly, how you doing, sir?
Happy to be here.
Glad to have you. First of all, I want to thank you for putting in the time to put this mock draft together. I will let everybody know this is about 90% of his work and about 10 or so percent of my work. But yeah, before we jump into it, hope everything's been going well. How's everything going up there?
I can't complain, man. I'm happy, I'm healthy, I got a job, so I'm doing better than most people can say these days. But family's good. Hope your family's good. Hope you're doing well down there. But for me, life's been it's been relatively the same in the COVID world, which is weird. I kind of forget that. The apocalypse is happening if I go to the grocery store and I see everybody with masks on.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm all good.
Good. Yeah, that's good to hear. Yeah, everything's pretty good on my end as well. And I know you're taking classes as well, so appreciate you taking the time out right now. Before we do get into the mock draft, I just have 2 quick questions for you. Just looking at everything that you sent over to me, I want to ask you, how do you feel about your team going into the draft this year?
So I feel a lot better about it now that I've acquired Tyreek Hill and Terry McLaurin.
I thought that was a great trade, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was happy I was able to work something out with my fellow owner, Kyle. We've been in discussions for months, going back and forth over Aaron Jones, and we're finally able to arrive at a trade we both were happy with. But I desperately needed some youth at wide receiver. I need a lock and loaded wide receiver 1. I got that with Hill. I got some youth upside with McLaurin. I like Marquise Brown to kind of come into his own. And not to give anything away here, but I think I'm in a prime position to land a top-tier rookie wide receiver as well. So after the draft, I have no concerns about my wide receivers. My running backs, on the other hand, which are extremely hard to come by in this league, I have Ezekiel Elliott, and that's about it. David Johnson,
Right.
who knows what he's going to do in Houston. Hopefully he can return to form. Ronald Jones, we all know that's been probably one of the worst trades I've ever made in the history of trading. I've made some bad ones.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yep, and then after that, I don't really have anything else. So it's going to be tough sledding at the running back position. But everywhere else, I'm pretty solid. I'm comfortable with my quarterback. I'm comfortable with my tight end. So we'll see. I think I can stay competitive, but I have a bad feeling I'm going to end up right at the 500 mark again this year, number 5. So it seems to be my spot.
Yeah, looking over your roster, you kind of hit the nail on the head with everything there. Everybody pretty much knows me as very optimistic when it comes to my team, and once again, I'm optimistic. Love Kyler Murray from a fantasy perspective. My running backs are interesting. Miles Sanders, Eckler, Darius Geis. Eckler kind of went off last year. You don't know what he's going to do this year. Geis needs to be healthy. My receivers are okay. Love that Mark Andrews tight end. I remember I traded with somebody for him. Can't remember who. But yeah, I think I'll be climbing out of the basement this year, or at least I hope so. And then the last thing I have for you, this is something I'm actually very interested in. You being a Clemson grad, I was surprised that Travis Etienne went back to college. If he came out into the draft, obviously it would depend on where he got drafted, but where would you have put him in your mock draft? Would it have been 1, top 3, top 5, first round, second round? What do you think about that?
So it's tough now knowing what we know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I probably would have had him slated in there right after Jonathan Taylor.
Okay, yeah.
And I was a lot higher on Swift coming out than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I was actually hoping that Clyde Edwards-Helaire was going to fall to me at number 6 in the draft until KC scooped him up in the first round. So I had him as the number 5 guy. I probably would have had ETN somewhere in the 4 or 5 range.
Okay.
But yeah, that threw me. I was ready to sell the farm to get him on my dynasty team. I was really looking forward to drafting him this year. So disappointed that I didn't have the chance to do it, but who knows? Maybe I can tank this season and get him next year.
Yeah, I was right there with you. I figured he would have been at least a top 4 pick in our draft, and then I figured he would have been at least a late first round, early second round. Like you said, CEH, he was, it was a surprise, but when you look at his body of work, it's kind of hard to argue anything. But yeah, with that being said, I appreciate the input. Let's get into the draft. So, first pick in the first round of the 2020 CDL mock rookie draft, built for the future, selects
Clyde Edwards-Helaire, running back, Kansas City. So, big surprise on draft day.
Yep.
Top running back drafted. Ended the first round. I think the first round was worth it just to get there. It was a big surprise. I know it lit social media on fire when Kansas City made this draft pick. I love the fit. Obviously, any running back going to Kansas City is going to be productive. But I think what caused him to rise up the draft boards on draft day, at least for Andy Reid, was this guy. He broke the most tackles out of any of these running backs in college.
Okay.
He's a forced missed tackle machine. He gets the ball in his hand. He keeps the ball in his hands. He makes people miss. He drives forward. He falls forward. He's got good hands in the passing game. He can do anything. He's a 3-down back. He can do anything he needs to do. So you put him alongside Patrick Mahomes as long as he can pick up, the blitz on passing downs. I see no reason why he won't eventually be, the 3-down back in Kansas City by the midway point of the season. If you look at his production in college, he only averaged 5.5 yards per carry. It's 52nd percentile. That's nothing crazy. It's certainly not the best in this draft class. But he didn't have a whole lot of work on at LSU either. His first year he only had 9 touches.
Right.
Second year 146. In the championship season in 2019, he only had 215 touches. But that was good for 1,400 yards, so 6.6 yards per carry his final year. So he definitely got better as he got the ball more. There's no doubt about that. His efficiency only improved. A lot of tread left on the tires. Great landing spot. I think this was a no-brainer slam dunk pick at 1.1 for Bill for the future.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it would be hard to pass up at the first overall pick. Um, Unfortunately, Built for the Future is lucky where he could toy with us and take him second overall, make us think he might pass on him, but I don't think that's the case. I agree with everything you said. I think the one thing that really came to light in his last season was his ability to catch the ball, which obviously for Kansas City is huge. He can at least start out as a third down back, worst case scenario. And like you said, it's an okay backfield, but there's no superstars in their backfield, so he can easily find his way into the starting lineup by week 8 or so.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about his receiving work going up. In 2019, he had 453 rushing yards. He had 10% of the targets on LSU. And how many times did Joe Burrow throw that year? I think he threw, 527 times. So it's pretty significant, that 10% of the work there.
Yeah.
They obviously trusted him with the ball, and he was productive with it. So I think that's a good point by you.
Yeah. So there we go. We got number 1 out of the way. So we're going to go first round pick number 2, still to Built for the Future. They will be selecting.
And I don't know how this guy got easy, first round picks here. I don't know how the heck anybody let that happen, but I haven't taken Jonathan Taylor, running back, Indianapolis.
Yep.
This was the number 1 guy, I think, consensus across the board going into the draft night, the NFL draft night. He obviously took a hit with Clyde Edwards-Helaire going off the board, number 1 overall in running backs.
Yeah.
But most people see this guy as the best pure running back in the class. His receiving chops, I don't think, are the same as Clyde Edwards-Helaire, but
right.
His athleticism is off the charts. He's the most athletic running back in the class. Anything I've ever heard anybody say about this guy is he's Ezekiel Elliott without the pass blocking. So,
okay.
to expect a rookie to be a perfect pass blocker in the NFL, I think is to expect a lot, but he's not going to have to really do that a whole lot, right? Like, he's in Indianapolis, so they have one of the elite offensive lines in the league right now. So
True.
If there's ever a place to go where you're not a good pass blocker, I think that's one of the best places you could hope for. And I'm honestly not worried about Marlon Mack or Nyheim Hines. I think Nyheim Hines is going to, he'll end up in the slot, he'll get some receiving work. But I think the team signals that they're not comfortable with Marlon Mack as their workhorse. I think they like having him, but I don't think they're comfortable giving him 3 downs worth of work.
I agree.
We didn't see that from him last year. He can't stay healthy. He doesn't have the draft capital that Jonathan Taylor has, and he's not the running back that Jonathan Taylor is. So I think that this is another situation where halfway through the season, you see Jonathan Taylor take over the 3-down work in Indianapolis, and they think they can win the championship, right? They didn't sign Phil Rivers to a 1-year deal. They didn't think they had the other pieces in place to win now.
That's for sure.
They know they have one of the best lines in the league. Their defense is up and coming. They've got a decent wide receiver core. They added some wide receivers in the draft. So they're going to try and win. They're going to put the best players on the field to help them win. And I just don't think that Marlon Mack can even hold the candle to Jonathan Taylor as a running back. So I think this is another slam dunk pick for Built for the Future. And you guys got to stop making these trades, giving this guy the first 2 picks in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where these trades came from. I know it wasn't me, even though I have been pretty bad recently. But, yeah, Jonathan Taylor's my favorite running back. I like watching Wisconsin football. He's a 1,000-yard rusher every single year. Obviously, he runs behind a great offensive line, but still, offensive line's only going to get you so far in college. You still need to make plays. I think something that's interesting with all of these running backs that we're going to be, or most of the running backs that we're going to be talking about today, is they're all in kind of odd situations. Clyde Edwards, he is probably in the most clear-cut position. Then you have Jonathan Taylor, who, like you said, they don't trust Marlon Mack, but when he has been on the field, he's been productive. They have the third down back in Nyheim Hines. So I think he will at least get the 1-2 punch, first and second down, by midway through the season. Nyheim Hines, I think, will take some snaps away from him. I agree with you. He'll probably slide over to the slot for some snaps as well. But, I just has always loved him as a runner, and I think these are some great running backs going to the same team right now.
Yeah, he's got some depth at running back after this draft. I mean, I'm trying to pull up his roster here. Bear with me, but let's see, he's going to have Todd Gurley, James Conner, and then these two guys to round out his running back core. I mean, that's pretty solid. You know, you can't really ask for a whole lot more going into a fantasy football season than four guys who, you know, you can almost guarantee are going to get the majority of the touches on their team. So and they're all talented guys with, you know, a lot of draft capital behind them. So he's it's going to be pretty stacked after this. I don't know how we let this happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary to look at it. And then, you know, looking ahead, he also has the first pick in the second round. So, you know, he's going to...
I don't know how that happened either.
Yeah, so it's going to be scary, but, you know, we'll all work as a team to take him down. That's all I got to say. So...
I can't formally agree with you because that would be collusion.
Behind the scenes, maybe. Moving on to the third pick in the first round, you have J-Way Bella selecting.
So this is a tough one. I honestly don't envy J-Way Bella here because I think that this is a coin flip which can actually go three different ways. But I have him taking J.K. Dobbins, running back out of Baltimore. You know, there's a pretty clear tier drop off of running back this year, right? Like you have your top tier with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Jonathan Taylor. That's a no-brainer.
Sure.
But then you have the next group of three where you have J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Swift, and Cam Akers. And they're all in very similar situations where the path to the work seems like it's there, but it might not be there, right? So you're kind of trying to pick out who's the most talented out of the group and who's in the best situation.
Sure.
I think J.K. Dobbins is that person. But, you know, Swift has more draft capital. He went higher than Dobbins in the draft. You know,
Yeah.
Cam Akers is a really talented guy that, you know, made a whole lot out of nothing down at Florida State.
Yeah, absolutely nothing.
But, you know, I think J.K. Dobbins, he goes to Baltimore. Yes, Mark Ingram's still there, but this is a team that, you know, made Gus Bus Edwards relevant last year for a stretch of time. They run the football more than anybody in the league. They throw the ball less than anybody in the league. You know, they're going to have a great offense again. They're going to put up a ton of points. And Ingram is old, you know, so there's always that chance he gets hurt and he goes down. And even if he doesn't, you know, Dobbins still carve out some work. But I think for J.Way Bella, this is a long-term thing. You pick Dobbins now, you
Bingo.
sit on the bench on the taxi squad for a year. You got to lock and load at RB1, RB2 next year, week in and week out with Dobbins. You know, I don't think Ingram's going to be there next year. I don't even know how old Ingram's going to be next year, but I know he's up there. He's approaching that running back cliff. And out of the three, I think Dobbins is the most talented and is in the best situation. He was the most efficient out of any running back in this running back class in college.
Yeah.
Trying to pull up his yards per carry now. But, yeah, 6.7 yards per carry in college, and that was on over 700 rushing attempts. So, I mean, this guy, he's good. You know, he knows how to run the football. So, yeah, I think when you look at the situations, he's the best talent and he has the best opportunity. But he might just have J.Way Bell might have to wait a year to realize, you know, the return on his investment here at number 3 overall.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think the J.K. Dobbins pick at 3, you're not going to see him play. You're going to see him play. You're not going to see him play too much his first year, but you have an older back in the backfield as opposed to DeAndre Swift, who has Kerryon Johnson, still a young back, in the same backfield as him. Same with Cam Akers. They have Darrell Henderson in their backfield, still a young back. So longevity-wise, J.K. Dobbins does look like that next running back for Baltimore. And like you said, it's not like you're 100% going to sit him the whole year. You could start him on your taxi squad. Mark Ingram can easily go down. Or Baltimore is known to run multiple running backs out there to have productive fantasy value week in and week out. So by the end of the year, he could probably have 2 or 3 games of fantasy relevance, but you're 100% right where this is the best long-term value of the players that are left at the running back position.
So let me ask you this. If you're J.Way Bell and you're sitting in a 3 spot, I mean, do you try and move up to 2 to get Jonathan Taylor? He's got Marlon Mack. You know, that obviously devastated Mack's value when they took Taylor, and you know that there's no way Taylor falls to you at number 3. Are you trying to get up to number 2? And if so, what would you offer to get there?
Yeah, I would definitely be offering for number 2. Let's see. So let me pull up Jay's team real quickly. So you flip picks there. You flip the 2 and the 3. Then let's see here. You're going to have to give up another running back there. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's not my team, so I could probably say something a little crazy here, but I'd go Melvin Gordon just because the name sounds intriguing. But I don't really see him having such a huge role. I think he's going to be okay in Denver, but they have a lot of running backs there. So you flip picks, you throw in the name Melvin Gordon, and you see what he says.
I like it. I'm with you there. I think that's a good value for Jonathan Taylor, especially if they have Marlon Mack.
Yeah, this way you already got your handcuff, and you're good to go for at least this year. All right, so we got the first 3 out of the way. Next pick, big guy. First round, pick number 4, right hand of destruction.
So I have you taking DeAndre Swift, running back Detroit. I think running backs are a premium in this league. I know you like drafting your wide receivers in the first round. I wrote a little bit about that last year. But I don't think you can pass up DeAndre Swift here. I think that he has the opportunity to change the narrative in Detroit in terms of their ability to run the football. Detroit has been historically bad at running the football.
Yes, they
I don't
have.
think there's been a team that's been worse at running the football over the past 5-10 years in the entire NFL than Detroit Lions. They want to be a defensive team. I don't think they want to have to lean on Matt Stafford the way they leaned on him. So they're going to try and establish some identity as a running football team. And DeAndre Swift is a prime candidate to help them do that. He was the second running back taken off the board after Clyde Edwards-Helaire. 21 and a half years old. He doesn't have a whole lot of he didn't get a whole lot of work in college, but the work he did get, he was very productive with. He averaged 6.2 yards per carry, which is very solid. Scored a decent amount of touchdowns, not a ton, but he's a great receiver, right? He can catch plenty of balls out of the backfield. So
Absolutely.
That'll definitely help him get on the field more. And I thought this was interesting for you, being the Miles Sanders owner. So PlayerProfiler.com likes to comp players based off of their physical metrics, and his best comparable is Miles Sanders. So given the rise that Sanders has seen this offseason and his value, I think that bodes well for your pick of DeAndre Swift here.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I'm going to give straight answers here. I'm not going to hold anything back, even though it may affect me come draft day. I like DeAndre Swift going into the draft. Georgia running backs historically have done very well, if not in the long term, at least in the short term for running backs. And then I was unsure of this pick for Detroit altogether. Them having Kerryon Johnson, who they refused to give a full workload to. Then them having Matthew Stafford, who just doesn't want to run the ball, and it's been like that since he's been there. I know he's getting up there. I wouldn't be mad with taking DeAndre Swift there, but knowing that he is there and knowing that there are some other some other teams down the line looking for a potential down the road premier running back, this is another one where I think his second to third year is really where he would hit his stride. I could see a potential trade down scenario here for myself.
Interesting. I might have to talk to you offline. Maybe by the end of this mock draft, I'll make you an offer.
We'll see about that. Down at 6. Okay. All right. Well, there's a possibility there. But let's keep this thing moving right along. Let's get on to the next pick here. Round 1, 5th pick. Silverback Nation is going ahead and taking
Cam Akers, running back, Los Angeles Rams. So the end of the tier. After this, it's kind of there's not really a running back that you get excited about, right?
Yeah, it's a hard
Cam
drop.
Akers is another one that you would think has the path to running back 1 on his team.
For sure.
Now it's just a matter of is that a running back one that you want on your fantasy team, right? Because we saw what happened last year. The Los Angeles Rams offensive line is not good. They've done nothing this offseason to address that.
Nope, just gotten
older. The nice
older.
thing about Cam Akers is he dealt with that already in Florida State. I don't have the stats offhand, but all you have to do is Google how bad was Florida State's offensive line last year, and you'll see plenty of articles written about it. They were very, very bad, but he still managed to get a whole lot of work and do a whole lot with that work. He had almost 200 carries last year, I believe. Hold on, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong guy.
No problem.
Yeah, he had over 200. He had 231 touches last year. And he still went for over 1,000 yards on a really bad offensive line. He averaged 5 yards per carry. That was all him. So, he's somebody that isn't unfamiliar with the situation he's walking into. He's a playmaker. He falls forward. He runs hard. And he's just got to beat out somebody that doesn't have the same draft capital. And the team obviously has signaled that they're not confident in his their RB1 going forward. So, Silverback Nation has a lot of question marks at running back. He's got a lot of older guys and not a whole lot of depth. So, he's got Kenyon Drake, who I think is going to have a great year for him this year. But in the future, who knows? He's an older running back. He's got Jordan Howard down in Miami, who feels a heck of a lot older than he actually is.
Yeah, I hear that, man.
Miami. So, they were talking about one of the worst teams in the NFL running the football. I think they took the cake last year in terms of just how inefficient they were running the football. But other than that, he's got a whole lot of backups. He's got Alexander Madison, so he's hoping that Cook holds out. I don't think Cook holds out. I think he'd resign. So besides Kenny Drake and Jordan Howard, Rusty, he has nobody that he can start on a week in and week out basis at the running back position. I think that Akers gives him the chance at that. I think, that remains to be seen. And even if he does get the work, who knows how productive he can be, given how bad that offensive line is there. But it's about, Sean McVay out there in Los Angeles, he's a really smart head coach. He finds a way to scheme to his best players. I think, if Davis Bruce can be one of them, he'll find a way to get him out in space and create some yardage for him.
Yeah, without a doubt. Cam Akers is one of those curious players this year because you hear a lot of the draft experts saying pretty much what you were saying. Yeah, you didn't really see it in college, but it's because of the bad offensive line. That can only get you so far, but it has been said that Florida State's offensive line was historically bad. I do like Cam Akers. I think out of these top 5 running backs after Clyde Edwards, he has the clearest path to number 1 week 1. Not saying that he will. I'm not saying Clyde Edwards will be number 1, but I think he has the second clearest path. Them losing or letting Todd Gurley go, if he can produce similar yardage that he did in college, which obviously he's not going to do that, but you need to assume that a bad NFL offensive line is going to be better than an absolutely terrible college offensive line. As long as he's not too beat up, then I think he's a great first, second down guy. Like you said, I think in that offense out there, he's gonna get some burn. But it could also come in that, Darrell Henderson comes out and he shows them that he should be the guy. So it's an interesting pick. I think it's, it could be risky, but it could pay off from week 1 also.
Agreed.
All right. So moving right along, we're getting to the second half of the first round here. We have round 1, pick number 6. Yourself, Dabo's Dynasty, is taking
CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver.
CDTD.
So let me ask you a question. You mentioned earlier you were watching the draft. Did you see Jerry Jones' face after they made this pick?
Oh, man. I just wanted to punch him right in the face.
I always want to punch him in the face. He looked like a kid on Christmas morning. He couldn't believe that he was feeling Lamb where he got him. That's exactly how I'm going to feel when I make this pick here. I think when you watch this film, out of all of the top tier wide receivers in this draft class, he's the only one that really gives you everything. I mean, he high points the ball. He makes physical contested catches. he streaks down the field in bust coverage. He runs, really nice routes where he's just open because he knows how to run the routes. So to me, he's the best wide receiver in the class. And to get him at 1.6 overall and be a team that desperately needs a wide receiver, I'm going to feel just like Jerry did on draft day. He's lying here at number 6 overall.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I've seen him torch West Virginia for the past couple years, so I know exactly what he's capable of. He's a scary wide receiver. He can make acrobatic catches. He has speed, and it's just, him going to Dallas, absolutely hate that. But getting him, like you said, at 6, that's going to be interesting. If that does happen, there might be a mix somewhere between 3, 4, and 5 where somebody's going to know they can take a top-tier wide receiver over a running back that they're unsure of. But if CeeDee Lamb falls to you at 6, man, he slides right into to the Cowboys' number 2 option.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys is going to be interesting. They're going to have a high-flying offense this year. At least they showed. Dak's going to be playing for that long-term deal, so he's going to be swinging the ball. But Amari Cooper actually has no guaranteed money in his contract, even though he just got the big deal after 2022.
I didn't know that.
2022 season and move on if Lamb, breaks out and it proves that, he can be the wide receiver 1 there. I think they like Michael Gallup. I think Gallup's a talented wide receiver. He's got to clean up some of his drops.
Yep.
But I can foresee a 2022 situation where they put Dak, they sign Dak, they cut Amari and CeeDee Lamb and Michael Gallup are the future wide receivers in Dallas.
Yeah, I didn't know that about the guaranteed money for Cooper, but that makes sense. Even more sense taking Lamb here, having Gallup, watch them grow, and then you sign your franchise quarterback, and you're going to have 2 stud wide receivers. You can let an older Cooper walk.
Yeah, that's obviously I've done a little bit more research on that than some other people here, given where I think I'm going to get him. But,
right.
That's the situation I'm hoping for in Dallas. So if that happens, I'll be very happy, and I'll be built for the future.
I like what you did there. Next pick we got the 7th pick in the first round. My guy Tucker will be selecting
Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver, Denver. So help me out here. He was the 3rd or 2nd wide receiver taken on draft day.
He was the 2nd wide receiver after Henry Ruggs. Yeah,
so this team in Denver, they're really looking to give Drew Lock the weapons he needs to prove that he can be their future. They also took KJ Hamler later in the draft, so they gave him 2 guys with great speed. I think Jerry Jeudy, obviously, is a very talented wide receiver. There's no debating that. But what really separates him from CeeDee Lamb, for me at least, is the ability to make the big physical contested catches. You just don't see it on the tape for Jeudy. There's some there. There's definitely there's more acrobatic catches there for Jeudy than I think someone like Ruggs.
Right.
But it's just to me he's not a true alpha wide receiver 1, and they don't necessarily need one, right? They have Courtland Sutton there in Denver.
Right.
So to me, Jerry Jeudy from day 1 can walk on. He doesn't have to carry the load. He can learn the playbook. They can scheme to him. They can get him open. They can get him in space. And he can kind of come into his own over time, and I think, to me, he feels like a really solid wide receiver 2 in the league. I don't see him as the alpha, but they're not asking him to be. I think that's Courtland Sutton. I think he displayed that for you last year. So, my guy Tucker, this is a team that, he really could use a solid wide receiver here. He has Stephon Diggs, he has Ken Galladay, but he doesn't have a whole lot after that. He's holding on to Antonio Brown, hoping something good will happen there. Heard rumors about him going to Tampa Bay, so we'll see. That'll be scary if he does.
Yeah, and he just dropped.
Who we just talked about.
Right.
He's fighting for targets with CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. Robbie Anderson in Carolina, number 3 guy there. James Washington in Pittsburgh should be the number 3 guy there. So, Stephon Diggs and Kenny Galladay are very solid, but my guy Tucker, he needs a number 3 guy he can rely on. I think Jeudy will give him just enough to be that guy this year.
Yeah, for me, Jerry Jeudy was my number one receiver, followed very closely by CeeDee Lamb coming into the draft. Judy's hands and route running are incredible. Yes, CeeDee Lamb does high point the ball a lot better and is more physical. I like how you mentioned them having Sutton though, because, and I'm not giving player comparisons, but remember when Denver had Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders, they had a 1A 1B. I feel like with these two, they can have a very similar 1A 1B approach where Judy, even though he's really the number two, he's going to be producing fantasy numbers for them. Unfortunately, I didn't like where he did land in Denver, especially then them going and getting Hamler from Penn State later in the draft as well. They got Melvin Gordon they brought in, Drew Lock, second-year quarterback. So I wish he had a better landing spot, and I would be even higher on him. But I think longevity, he's gonna carve himself a nice career. But I do to a degree agree with you by him not being an alpha. But I don't see him being necessarily a top 10 wide receiver over the next 10 years. But do I see him being a top 20? I could definitely see that happening. But yeah, I mean, I feel like there are a lot of odd places where some players landed in this draft.
I need you to settle a debate for us.
Mm-hmm.
Is Drew Lock good?
He's got some good hair. He's got a good flow, that's for sure. He ran a wide open offense at Missouri where he was throwing, 50 touchdowns a year, just slinging it out there. I think a lot of people are still saying he has untapped potential. To me, I don't think he's really ever going to get there. I think he'll probably start this whole season for Denver, start first couple games next year before they start questioning if this kid's worth it, because I personally don't think he is.
I agree with you, but Thought for the Future seems to be riding high. So he deferred Russell Wilson for Drew Lock as his quarterback of the future. So we'll see if that move pays off for him.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was a mistake I was saying with just Drew Lock on his roster, but I guess every team has to have a weak point.
Agreed. Glad it's
there. Getting closer to the end of round one here, we got pick number 8, the first round. Johnny, I want to score more, selects
Henry Ruggs, wide receiver, Las Vegas Raiders. Glad I got that out right. This is a pick that you mentioned it earlier. There was some head scratches on draft day, right, where some teams picked some guys. And this, I think, to me, was the biggest one because all you heard about from Gruden was they needed better wide receivers. They needed to address their wide receivers.
Yep.
They go out and they get an undersized guy who has a whole lot of speed and is a great route runner, but that's it. Still, he's undersized. He's not the alpha dominant, wide receiver guy you can just throw the ball up to. But maybe that's not what they need. They have Derek Carr who basically just throws passes 5 yards in front of the line of scrimmage and that's it. So they're hoping this guy will just get open and break a few tackles and be off to the races. Who knows? I don't play no more than Gruden, but it just didn't feel like it's the pick that they needed to make, but it's the pick that they did make. I think for Johnny, I want to score more. He's going to get a ton of targets. I mean, he's got the draft capital. The team has expressed that they need somebody to step up and be their wide receiver one. He's a 12th overall pick in the draft. This guy at Alabama was nothing but productive on limited work. He averaged in his final year there almost 19 yards per reception, which is just phenomenal. Just over 17 for his career. 90 percentile speed score, 100 percentile 40-yard dash, 98 percentile burst. I mean, he's a speedster. That's what he is. So to me, again, I felt like they needed more than what they got out of him, but who knows? Maybe they just want to dump the ball off to him 5 yards in front of the line of scrimmage and just let him go to work. If he does that, PPR will help him, and he could turn out to be a pretty solid wide receiver for Johnny. I want to score more.
Yeah, obviously that was one of the biggest surprises of draft day. going with Ruggs. The only thing I can say of why it wouldn't be surprising is that it is the Raiders, and they have tended to just draft people that are fast. So they do like those combine guys quite a bit. I'm scrolling through their roster now, and they have Tyrell Williams, and then there's not too much else there that you're confident with. There were some guys last year, Renfro had a couple good games. They drafted another wide receiver later, Edwards. They got Zay Jones, which, that's all I got to say about that. There's not too many options there for my boy Derek Carr. But it's, but he does have the speed. There are the comparisons to, a Tyreek Hill type, where a lot of teams or a lot of analysts are saying that's the kind of receiver teams should be moving towards now. You should have one of those on your roster in today's NFL. So it could pay off for them. But, I think at that spot, though, 8 landing Henry Ruggs, I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
No, I agree. I mean, for where you're getting in there, the upside is immense, obviously. So it's well worth the investment in number 8 overall. But I think, you bring up a good point with teams moving towards having a receiver like that on the roster. But I think for fantasy purposes, what makes Tyreek Hill is not his speed. It's his speed in conjunction with having a quarterback like Pat Mahomes.
Oh, that's
his
very true.
Ball is just a thing of beauty. And Derek Carr is no Pat Mahomes. So, I appreciate the comp, but I think the path to production is much harder for Henry Ruggs in Las Vegas than obviously Tyreek Hill in Kansas City. But, to your point, for where Johnny Allen-Scorer is getting him and for what he could be for that team, I think this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's going to come in. He should be a starter, the number 2, number 3 guy. Like you said, he'll probably have a handful, possibly, of long touchdown runs from dump-offs. But, without a Pat Mahomes type or someone with that cannon attached to their arm, he's going to be limited.
Agreed.
Now, getting along to pick number 9, we have the Ewalking Dead, and they will be selecting
Jalen Reagor, wide receiver, Philadelphia.
Woo!
So, I saw a crazy stat about Carson Wentz, that he was the first quarterback, and I could be misquoting this, so forgive me if I am, but the stat itself is crazy, so how accurate it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
He was the first quarterback, I think, in NFL history to throw for over 4,000-something yards and have no wide receiver have over 1,000. I mean,
wow.
They are so desperate for wide receiver help in Philadelphia. It's unbelievable. And they're getting Deshaun Jackson back, hopefully. Whether or not he can stay healthy, we'll see.
Yeah,
he just did
big
yesterday, by the way, so go pick him up. They had Alshon Jeffrey there, who's probably not going to be back in time, to start the season. So, if we do have a training camp and Reagor could get in there and do some work with Carson Wentz, I can see this guy easily being the most productive year 1 rookie wide receiver out of the class.
Wow.
There's only one other guy I think will be in that same boat. We'll talk about him in a little bit. But, there's so much need in Philadelphia. I think they moved up to get him. Or I could be thinking of somebody else. But, first round draft pick, very productive out of college. Over 14.5 yards per reception. A lot of burst, a lot of speed there. He's not the most physical guy, but he's physical enough. To me, he's in that situation where talent doesn't really matter as much as the opportunity. And he's got just enough talent to make the most out of some pretty good opportunity there in Philadelphia. So, I like this pick at number 9 for the Walking Dead. I'll be honest with you, the more I look at Reagor, the more I start to like him for the short term.
Yeah, it's an interesting receiving corps he finds himself in. A lot of people were shocked with this pick, as well as their second round pick. But you have, as you mentioned, Jeffrey, taller receiver. They got JJRK Whiteside, taller receiver. Then you have Deshaun Jackson, the speedster. A lot of people thought Philly was going to go with Justin Jefferson. But what they're probably looking for, Rieger, probably does fit them best, as you said it, in this short term. He's a very quick, twitchy type player. Like you said, he's not very physical. It's just going to be whether Carson Wentz can stay healthy, whether any of their receivers or pass catchers can stay healthy also. But yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be a fine wide receiver his rookie year, but, you said the more you talk about him, the more excited you get. He's just a guy that's there for me.
Yeah, I mean, I can see a case for both sides for Rieger, but
yeah,
I just think that you get a quarterback like Carson Wentz who all he's ever done is show you how he can elevate the people around him. He kind of feels a little like Aaron Rodgers in the sense he doesn't get the help he deserves, right? If he just gets a good cast and stays healthy for him, I mean, he could be a top 5 quarterback in the league without question. He walks into a situation where they need the help. He's a fresh body. I just don't see J.J. Arcega-Whiteside ever being anything other than a splash in the bucket
right
kind of guy. I don't see Deshaun Jackson. He's on the wrong side of the age equation. I just don't see him staying healthy. And Alshon isn't healthy now. So who the hell are you going to throw the ball to? Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert 100,000 times? The guy's going to get a lot of work, I think. And opportunity is the name of the game in fantasy football. And for your 9th pick in the first round of the 10-team rookie draft, you could do worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Opportunity's definitely there for him. Injuries there have been injuries for Jeffrey and Jackson multiple times in their career, so it's any day where they can re-injure themselves. So that's a good point. He'll definitely have his opportunity at some point this season.
But I'm with you. He's not the sexiest of picks. He's no CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah, but at the same time, sometimes it's those chain movers that are the ones that actually win you your leagues when you plug them into the flex or your number 2 or number 3 spot.
Like Terry McLaurin?
Possibly. We'll see. Finishing up the first round, we have the only team with a new name this season, the 10th pick in the first round. Models and Bottles will select.
So I actually have him taking Joe Burrow here.
Woo!
Back for Cincinnati. And it's interesting because the guy has Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
So why is he going to spend a premium draft pick on another quarterback when you have Patrick Mahomes? But I have it on good intelligence that Kyle, the owner of Models and Bottles, is absolutely in love with this Joe Burrow guy. He's infatuated with him. He thinks he's the best player available at that point in the draft. And I just can't see a situation where he passes him up. I also don't think that, he has a need really in any other position. I think he's pretty rock solid, across the board, running back, wide receiver, tight end. So, he has an opportunity to add some really solid depth behind Patrick Mahomes and secure his quarterback position for probably the next 5 to 10 years. So what really sticks out to me about Burrow, this guy threw the ball 527 times last year. You know how many interceptions he had?
Was it 1?
6.
6.
He had 6 interceptions on 527 throws. That's absurd.
And over 60 touchdown
he had
passes.
last year?
It was 60, right? 61?
And that was 60.
Yeah.
Yep. So this guy is he's a production machine. When they let him rip the ball, he rips it. Cincinnati is going to put him in from day one. They obviously got rid of Andy Dalton. There's no question mark this guy's going to start, week 1 for this team.
Yeah, absolutely.
They made an investment in my boy T. Higgins to help solidify their wide receiver core.
Great
They have John Ross, got a lot of speed. They have Tyler Boyd, who's an emerging wide receiver too. They still have A.J. Green there, who we'll see what he has left in the tank. So, I think the Bengals are on the right track, as weird as that is to say. But I think that, Joe Burrow is going to be very productive for him there. He's got enough weapons, and, Kyle gets his guy here at 1.1 or or 1.10. You know, as they say in fantasy football, if you want your guy, go get him. And I think he goes and gets him here.
Yeah, and like you said, I just took a peek at the roster. Doesn't seem like there's too many holes, so why not reach for somebody that you like? They gave him a bunch of weapons. He's also got Joe Mixon in the backfield. So they're looking like they'll be a fun team to watch. They are going to be young. They probably won't win so many games, but he's going to have people to throw to. They're probably going to be behind a lot of games, so he's going to get some yards, and I'm sure there'll be a spot start or two for him. I'm sure it'll be taxi squad a lot of the season, but there could be that bye week Patrick Mahomes has. You stick Burrow in. I don't know what his matchup is that week, but longevity is key here with Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow. Not something I like to do, but down the line, you could just play whoever has the best matchup, and you're going to be good to go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you have 5 weeks all kinds of figured out if you're two quarterbacks of Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes. So I think, like you said, looking at his roster, he could go for a wide receiver here, but doesn't really need him. He's got plenty of running backs. So, I think I don't see it as a reach. I know you called it a reach for your guy. I don't see it as a reach here. I think Joe Burrow deserves to go in the first round, and he's stealing at 1.10.
Yeah, and it's the only quarterback we see going in the first round. So moving on to the second round, we're going to change the format up a little. I'm actually going to run through all 10 picks. Going to get this moving a little quicker than daily. You can pick whatever you want, 1, 2, 3, 4 guys to talk about. I'll do the same, and then we'll just move on from there.
Sounds good.
So we got first pick in the second round, built for the future, taking Justin Jefferson, wide receiver, Minnesota. Second pick, shooter stab, Keyshawn Vaughn, running back, Tampa Bay Bucks. Third pick in the second round, J-Way Bella, going with T. Higgins, wide receiver, Cincinnati. Fourth pick in the second round, we have Silverback Nation going with A.J. Dillon, running back from Green Bay. Also, with the fifth pick, Silverback Nation is going to take Zach Moss, running back in Buffalo. The sixth pick in the second round, myself, right hand of destruction, will be drafting Denzel Mims, wide receiver, New York Jets. The seventh pick, my guy Tucker, is going to go ahead and take Michael Pittman Jr., wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. You have the eighth pick, Johnny I Want to Score More, taking Laviska Shenault Jr., wide receiver, Jacksonville. The second to last pick, E-Walking Dead, takes Brandon Ayuk, wide receiver, San Francisco. And the last pick in the second round, Models and Bottles will be taking Brian Edwards, wide receiver, Las Vegas. So, Daly, why don't you pick a few guys here just to say a little something about some guys either, you really like, they're long-term, short-term, some guys that kind of aren't in a good situation, whatever you want to go with.
Yeah, so I think one of the things we haven't really touched on yet is the fact that, this wide receiver class is pretty deep this year.
Very deep, yeah.
The running backs kind of dry up after 5, right? You hit Akers, and, you're not really excited about any of the other guys after that.
Definitely.
But for the wide receiver, to me, I put Justin Jefferson, T. Higgins, Denzel Mims, and you can make a case now with the Deebo Samuel injury for Brandon Ayuk in the same class as Jalen Reagor. He's going in the first round. So, it's a deep draft class. That's why, we included the second round this year. So there's a lot of guys I want to talk about, but there's two in particular I'll zone in on. And I'll leave the easy one about you if you want to touch on that with the Deebo injury. But actually, I'll say one thing. He probably would have moved up if I updated this after the Deebo injury from 2.9. I probably would have had him around 2.5.
Okay.
But Justin Jefferson, to me, at 2.1, I mean, this is a guy who could easily go in the first round over Jalen Reagor.
Yeah.
So I mentioned earlier, there's a couple guys I see having, the easiest path to production year one, and this, to me, Justin Jefferson will be the most productive rookie wide receiver year one.
Okay.
They obviously got rid of Stephon Diggs in Minnesota.
Yeah.
They have an aging Adam Thielen there. They have Kyle Rudolph, Irv Smith. But beyond that, there's really no pass catchers. and obviously Kyle Rudolph and Irv Smith aren't keeping me up at night with excitement. Gallagher is holding out. People like to sleep on Kirk Cousins' ability to sling the ball. So, I see Justin Jefferson getting on that field early and often, and I see him as their wide receiver too. And, we saw not that long ago that the wide receiver too in Minnesota can be a very productive position. I like his physical traits. I like everything about the wide receiver, to be honest with you. And I like the situation he walked into. So at 2.1, he's a steal. He's essentially a first-round pick if this was a 12-team league. So I really like Justin Jefferson a lot. The only other guy I would mention is Brian Edwards in Las Vegas. We mentioned earlier that Henry Ruggs doesn't really fit the mold of an alpha wide receiver.
Yep.
To me, Brian Edwards does. When you watch this guy on film, he's just a big physical guy that likes to go up and fight for the ball. And he's got a decent amount of speed to go along with his size. So, I can see a situation where, pretty early in the season, you have Brian Edwards and Henry Ruggs, the 1A, 1B, or the 1 and 2 in Las Vegas, and they're eating up a majority of the targets that the Walrus decided to give up. So I like Brian Edwards a lot. He's actually one of my big dark horse sleepers for year one production out of this rookie class.
Oh, wow. I like that. Those are the guys you good talking about?
Yes. Yeah.
So the one guy I really like in this second round, there's a couple, like you said, the wide receiver class. Pretty much any of these guys, you're want to land one of them, hopefully. But I like the position that Michael Pittman Jr.'s in. You got T.Y. Hilton, aging speedster. You got Phillip Rivers, who likes to sling it. Paris Campbell hasn't really done too much. They have a bunch of other no-name wide receivers on their team. You got a big 6'4" guy from USC. I think that's a great position for him. I'm probably not going to talk about the guy from San Francisco because Laviska Shenault, I loved him in college. Injuries really plagued him, but him landing in Jacksonville is very interesting. Their wide receivers are young, but they're very unproven as well. So you don't know if their flashes in the pan or not. Quarterback play there is a big question, but I think he actually landed in a very good spot. And then, T. Higgins, I think, in Cincinnati, he's going to have a very good season. He's not going to, wow anybody, but he's just going to, I feel like he'll be consistent all the way through, and he's going to have a very nice career with Joe Burrow throwing him the ball.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, I'm a Clemson homer, and I love T. Higgins. One of the things that was always interesting to me was, the knocks that he gets from people in fantasy is that he just didn't get a whole lot of work in college. But what people fail to realize is like 90% of his production came in the first half because they were just putting up so many points.
Right.
He's a good, smooth wide receiver. He's not the biggest guy, but I don't see him being that productive this year. But I think he's somebody that in the next 2 to 3 years will really kind of come into his own and could be that year 3 wide receiver breakout candidate that you see so often.
Yeah, and landing somebody like that in the second round of this draft is amazing. But yeah, like I said, I want to thank you for putting this together. Before we say goodbye, I do have a couple notable players that I wrote down, some players that were drafted in the first 2 rounds of this year's draft. Just going to mention some names, and if you just want to talk about 1 or 2 of them and why you left them out. So I got the 2 quarterbacks. I got Tua and Herbert going at 5 and 6. The only tight end to go in the first 2 rounds, or at least the highest tight end, Cole Clement to Chicago. And then some pretty high drafted wide receivers in KJ Hamler, Chase Claypool, and Van Jefferson. Are there any of those players what are the reasons why you kind of left them out of these first 2 rounds?
Yeah, so I'll be honest. In our league, there's really not a need to draft a quarterback. You got Matt Ryan and Kirk Cousins sitting on waivers
Very true.
It's one of those things where if you're going to take a shot in the rookie draft, to me, you take the shot on the upside guys that can pay off later, and if you need a bye week plug, you go get them off the waivers. I think Ben Roethlisberger was on waivers through the majority of the season last year, so 10-team league, shallow rosters. To me, there's not a need to pick up a wide receiver quarterback in the rookie draft unless it's someone like Joe Burrow.
Right.
And you're infatuated with him like Kyle is. Who were the wide receivers? I'll talk about the tight ends. The tight ends, I'll be honest, there's nobody there that really excites me.
I agree.
Komet went to Chicago, but even Chicago was pissed off about that. It wasn't. What the heck did they do that for? They have so many needs, and they pick this guy who, he's the best tight end out of the class, but it's not a great class.
Yeah, he's the best of the shit
One of those
bags.
picks that felt very forced. So for fantasy purposes, I don't want anything to do with Chicago this year. Besides Allen Robinson, I think he's going to be the guy. And I love Allen Robinson. I would still take Allen Robinson if you want to talk about that situation.
I know you would.
I'm not touching any other pass catcher in Chicago besides maybe Anthony Miller. Take a shot on him, but the tight end there doesn't really excite me. The Hamler, I just don't see him being anything other than a really nice punt returner, just somebody that kind of hits that one big play and gets you excited for a week, and then you don't really see him again. He's a really small wide receiver. I don't get excited about guys like that. If you're going to be all speed and no size, I'd rather not have you on my fantasy team. So I just don't see him being a second-round grade in a rookie draft in a 10-team league.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think out of the ones I listed, the only one where I could have seen sneaking in would be Chase Claypool, big wide receiver from Notre Dame, goes to Pittsburgh. Obviously, quarterback longevity is the concern there. Juju is there. Obviously, he's their number one. I really felt like they haven't had a consistent number two. So he was the only one that I really thought might sneak in. Maybe two if somebody just is really into a lefty quarterback that has a hip injury. But I don't know if there's too many people out there. The last couple things I just wanted to ask, I had two questions, and then we'll go with a bold prediction. What could you see being the biggest surprise in this draft, whether it be somebody going higher than you predict or somebody dropping out, anything like that?
No, honestly, this is, to me, and this could just be because I'm more familiar with it, having done this now for, our fifth season?
Yeah.
Our fourth rookie draft. But to me, this feels like the most straightforward draft class that we have. It's, you have 5 really solid running backs and a whole slew of wide receivers to go get. And you're really only taking Keyshawn Vaughn, A.J. Dillon, Zach Moss if you really need them. I know that's not the response you were hoping for, but in terms of this draft class, I don't really see any huge surprises. Besides maybe, I could see Ayuk jumping from, where I have 2.9 up to, push the first round. They get excited when people get hurt. Like Deebo Samuel is probably going to be out for a while. And
right.
There's really nobody else for them to throw to in San Francisco. So I can see him push the first round, but I don't think he breaks it.
Okay. Yeah. No. I'd rather you answer honest than blow smoke up my ass. So I appreciate that. And then the last question for the bold prediction, of these players in the first 2 rounds, who do you see having the best career from a stat perspective, not necessarily Pro Bowls or something like that or accolades, but just straight up statistics?
Oof, that's tough. So are we talking about accumulated statistics or normalized statistics like per touch or per season or per catch?
So just at the end of their career, they're going to be considered the best in this draft class.
Man, that is a good question. I think, if I had to pick one out of anybody, it would probably have to be Burrow.
Okay.
That's the easy pick. So I'll go out on a limb a little bit. actually say CeeDee Lamb. I think he'll, he's a wide receiver. He's young, so he's got, outside of quarterback, the most longevity. I think he's going to be productive from day one. I think he's going to eventually be the alpha wide receiver one on whatever team he's on. And I just, I could be biased, but I'm really high on the guy. I could see him having the best career of anybody in this class. I think, Jonathan Taylor and Tyler was hilarious, easy picks, but they're running backs. And,
Yeah, it's hard to pick them.
Yeah, I can see them having 2 or 3 great years, but if we're talking about over a lifetime, looking back 20 years from now, to me it's Joe Burrow or CeeDee Lamb, no doubt.
Yeah, I like those picks. If I was going to go more on the sleeper route, I really do like Michael Pittman Jr. 6'4" wide receivers, that's right on that fringe area where a lot of them don't tend to work out, but I think where he's falling, obviously they're going to have to get a quarterback for the future, but T.Y. Hilton he's up there. He's starting to get injured quite frequently, and I just think he can be a productive dude all around the field, especially in the red zone. I just really like that he landed in Indy, and then, behind T.Y. they have Funchess, who's also older and not that good, and then it's just Paris Campbell that he would need to beat out to be their number one. So I really like him. I like Denzel Mims a lot, but he's on the Jets, so that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It's the Jets, so it's hard to get excited about them. But I specifically didn't talk about Pittman. I'm kind of mad that you did because I was hoping he'd push down into the third round and I might be able to snatch him up. So thank you for that.
Yeah, but by the end of this, he might be closer to the first than the third.
Yeah, that's what it's starting to feel like.
All right, and then the last thing before we leave, everybody, give me your bold prediction for this season.
So I've made this bold prediction before, so it's not going to be the most exciting, but I have Johnny Allen-Stormore as my top-ranked team going into the season right now if Dalvin Cook gets his contract.
Oh, wow, okay. All right. That's interesting. I mean, yeah, I think, what was it, last year or 2 years ago, a lot of people said he had the best team, and that didn't work out. So who knows if it's going to work out this year. May have just given him the kiss of death, but that'd be fine with me.
I think I was those a lot of people.
No, I remember looking at it and being like, oh, dang, he's got a good roster there. But yeah, as we all know, injuries happen. Players don't perform up to snuff. And then, so I went more of a bold prediction for the rookie class overall is I don't think a rookie wide receiver will finish in the top 35 in fantasy at their position.
Wow, I'll take that bet.
So there were, I believe, 2, maybe 3 rookies that finished in the top 35 last year, and they were all past 25. So the way I see a lot of these players, they landed on teams where they don't need to be number one from day one. So I just think I think there'll be a lot of solid production, but I don't know if there'll be top end production year one from them.
Hey man, if you're giving me the field, I'll take that bet.
I don't know. I'd have to think about what the odds would be for that.
Right, just shoot me a text on that.
All right, Daly. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. This was awesome. This was really fun. It's great to get back into doing this. This is going to be something that I'll be doing once the season starts back up. Maybe right before the season, me and the commish get back together, make some predictions. But I appreciate it. You kind of nudged me in the direction of getting this started.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I'm glad we got to do this. I look forward to the future editions of your podcast. And are you going to come up a couple weeks early to quarantine yourself for the draft?
Yeah, so I'll be at the draft for sure. I got my $36 round trip plane ticket already.
That's solid.
Yeah.
I'm sure you leave yourself 2 weeks to quarantine because Murphy will get you.
Yeah. No. I'm sure he's watching me right now, but yeah, I saw that. So yeah, I'll make sure to abide as best as I can. But yeah, everybody, just want to appreciate you for listening. Everybody have a great, happy, and lovely 4th of July weekend. Until next time, right hand man.